now legal in 2 states. Medicinal use is fine in another 20, and the tide of normalization proceeds. Well-known people as various as Miley Cyrus and Andrew Sullivan and Richard Branson have all come out of the closet. The Cheech and Chong jokes, the Snoop Dogg jokes, the Snoop Lion jokes, they're not landing anymore. In the past, Studio 360 has had graphic design firms redesign icons like the gay pride flag, Christmas, and the board game Monopoly. So we figured it was time now to ask what a mainstream rebranding of marijuana is about. We put producer Michelle Siegel on the job.
This is Amy.
I work at Children's Publishing. I have 2 kids, 16 and 20, and I'm coming out of the pop plaza. Sort of.
Amy is not her real name. We also altered her voice.
I want to come out of the pop closet, but I can't fully yet.
She smokes about once a week.
Basically, every single friend of mine smokes and in fact, my kid's school, there's like a dealer who sort of caters to the parents of the students, which is nice.
For Amy, getting a little high just feels better than kicking back with a glass of wine.
For me, I just find it's just a fun headspace to be in. I'm not really much of a drinker. I love to laugh, so it's that kind of a thing. I don't like to be like super stoned and wasted and immobilized. That's, to me, it's dreaded. But I like to be able to go out and business, hang out with people, or even just get things done, and just have everything be just a little bit shinier and happier.
Most of the time, she uses a device called a vaporizer, but she doesn't really like the paraphernalia.
You know, like there's no like West bomb, which I would like. You think that would go perfectly on my mantle?
If marijuana is still entering the industry, a lot of people like Amy, folks who don't identify as stoners, will want it to look and feel different. Studio 360 wanted a professional design opinion on what that would be like.
I'm Jennifer Kynan, co-founder of OCD.
I'm co-founder of OCD, the original Champagne design.
OCD has created identity systems for national brands like the WNBA and the Girl Scouts of America. A pretty wholesome lineup, until now.
My knee-jerk reaction when you called at first was, this might not be great for OCD. It's a really fun project. It doesn't imply that we smoke pot. We don't. I never have. I've been the dorkiest person in the office for the past couple of days trying to wrap my mind around this. But the scientific research is actually something that I do believe in.
At their studio in Manhattan, Jennifer Kynan walked me through their design process.
Before we start designing, but after we've gotten the brief, we like to pull together some just market overview, the visual inspiration, some ideas for new opportunities, and then just a little look at the next steps. So that's what we'll look at today.
She started with this list.
Weed, dope, grass, ganja, cannabis, reefer. It goes on and on and on, and just gets goofier from there all the way down to blueberry yum yum, AK-47, Kansas City. It's pretty hilarious. We want to know if we're going to help rebrand or reposition marijuana. What are the names that are already out there right now, and the current connotations that are carried with them? How, if we're going to reposition that, would we consider remake?
Next, they identified 3 audience categories. Wellness freaks.
So let's go to them wellness freaks and deliver to them the new organic. Can we sell it the way you sell a vitamin? You wake up in the morning, you take your fish oil, you take your multivite, and you take your pot.
Lean in moms.
Being a lean-in mom, you're always looking for the best product. So can we replace that end-of-day glass of wine with the end-of-day glass of pot?
And the third target group, foodies.
Foodies like to eat. Marijuana increases your appetite, so why not incorporate pot into your other herbs?
With those audiences in mind, OCD started thinking about graphics.
We'll start testing them out and seeing if a single identity system can address all of those different audiences. Are they one universe of user, or like chocolate will have several different identities? You know, M&M's going mainstream, Toblerone going high-end. Do we need to start differentiating our types of pods for the audiences that will appreciate them?
When marijuana goes as mainstream as M&M's, will it really be as harmless as M&M's? I called an expert, Sherry Emery. She teaches health policy and administration at the University of Illinois.
Right now, I'm agnostic about marijuana and the health of marijuana. We can go down
Big tobacco might move into marijuana sales.
You have tobacco that is not value neutral. Moving into this territory, tobacco industry, the predatory pricing, they target the market of vulnerable elements of the population, like the lower income groups, children, and they produce a known toxic product and a known safe use. That's a concern that marijuana may become the new route to big tobacco industry.
I asked our designers at OCD to keep that concern in mind. A few weeks later, they came into the studio to show me and Kurt their new brand identity for marijuana. Here's Jennifer Cunningham.
Now, instead of renaming marijuana, we want to reposition the experience. So the same with that in the 90s we did natural food, then we started eating organic food. Now you can have cannabis. We were excited after coming up with the name because when you Google search it, it doesn't exist. It's not a term in our
I get it.
Yes, cannabiotic. So you bring the cannabis into the food, and it is, instead of just another level of eating, it's another level of eating that brings another level of consciousness.
Sounds almost too much.
Exactly. Perfect for all wellness freaks and foodies.
Okay. So you're thinking of this as what you're doing is being as purely cosmetic.
That's how we see it going into new demographics.
Yeah. Because people don't want to smoke you, period.
No, smoking's out.
Yeah.
Smoking's out as a way to consume anything.
Yeah.
The first graphic was a purple symbol. This is how they replaced the pot leaf on all the bumper stickers.
The new symbol is really a simplified version of the marijuana leaf. It's completely abstract. It's 7 leaves, different lengths each leaf. It looks a little bit like a very short rounded Christmas tree, if you will, or a smooshed asterisk as if it's sitting down on the ground. And it's not green anymore. It's purple
Why is it
now.
purple?
It's purple now because all the cues of relaxation.
Purple is a relaxing color?
It's relaxing. There are some cues to wine, to red wines, and subtle connotations of purple haze and things like that come through. So some connection to what people understand marijuana to be is okay, but at the same time, we can then move it further along so that it starts to represent different things.
That makes sense, and it's tasteful and unembarrassing in marijuana. Has been even when I was 18.
OCD also came up with slogans that would be part of the Cannabiotics branding campaign.
Conscious untensioning for lenient moms. There's a picture of a young woman who is presumably the lenient mom. Conscious untensioning. Did you get that from the recent cultural conscious untensioning idea?
She's quite an inspirational lady.
Yes.
Bringing marijuana to the demographics is all about consciousness.
Yes.
And that's just in the ether right now. And it's something so applicable to choosing marijuana over alcohol. Conscious intentioning.
Untensioning? Does that intentioning appear? Did you Google it? Have people used that a lot as a word?
No.
Really? A hot new word for 2014. Alrighty. That makes sense. I can see this.
But with so many edible products, it would be super important to keep them safely away from children.
And I guess that would mean that people at home, like they have liquor closets or liquor cabinets, would have a cannabis closet so that where someone start eating a cheese whiz full of pot.
Absolutely, yes. It needs to
Cheese whiz. That's a good cannabis product.
It needs to be.
OCD addressed this danger with another mark. It's a circle in a harsh shade of lime green, and the graphic is their abstract leaf, now white, perched above crossed bones.
It is designating the area where you're going to store your cannabinoids and making sure that it's clearly communicated. Eat this brownie, not that brownie. So developing a clear marking, playing off of that poison symbol. You know, this isn't for regular consumption. You need to eat this responsibly.
And you conceive of this as, from the past, being an individual proprietary company thing or some kind of trade association mark and system?
I think it would be a trade association. Like here we spoof the Cannabis Farmers of America. So it's really like a got milk campaign or drink your orange juice in the morning. It's all about finding that time and place to use the right substance.
I'll tell you what, let's plan on reuniting here in 7 years and see how close to reality we have described, okay?
Fantastic.
you up on that.
We're
Okay.
here.
Thanks, guys. That was great.
Thanks.
You can see all of the images from the design proposal by OCD, Original Champions of Design, at studio360.org. Our rebranding scheme was produced by Michelle Season.
This is your brain.
Remember this.
This is good. This is your brain on the road.
The catchiest piece of magic pop from the heyday of the war on drugs.
Any questions?
Marijuana advocates have always argued that the much more dangerous drug is for sale at your local liquor store and supermarket. But it's hard to imagine American culture without either booze or now pot. From Louis Armstrong, a prolific marijuana smoker, to Ernest Hemingway, a heroic drinker. We asked producer Mark today to listen to how America's two favorite drugs created mine.
Have you ever held a glass of bourbon up to the setting sun?
Jason White is a Nashville-based singer-songwriter and whiskey connoisseur.
You should try that sometime. It makes a lovely amber light. I think it's my favorite color.
White works on his songs in the sober light of day, but the lyrics don't really start flowing until the bourbon does.
I made a point of trying to drink before the cocktail hour ever. That's just a line I don't like to cross. But most of my productivity occurs after the sun goes down. I'll sit on the porch, I'll pour myself a glass of bourbon. That's when the magic seems to happen. And I think it's a matter of being really loose, relaxed, and being in a place where no one can hear me if I just scream total nonsense at the top of my lungs until some words start to take shape and make sense.
Drinking and playing music go back a long time. The first evidence of fermented beverages was found at a 9,000-year-old archaeological site in China, alongside some of the oldest intact musical instruments. Jason White started on both pretty young. He wrote his first smoking song at 15, after guzzling a Colt 45. Later, he formed a hard-drinking band called the Jankers. Put on the title.
Our lady was instructed to have a shot of Jim Beam and rolling on top of my amplifier all the time.
But if alcohol is a muse, it's kind of an unruly one.
What we know about what alcohol does to the brain is that it primarily inhibits brain activity. That would sound like maybe not a good thing for creativity, and in a lot of ways that's true.
Harvard professor and neurologist Alice Blackerby wrote a book called The Midnight Disease about writers and writer's block.
When your alcohol level first starts to rise, the first thing that it inhibits is some of the inhibitory systems.
And that's why that first shot of whiskey at sunset feels so good.
People start feeling maybe a little euphoric or excited, and they might be more active for a little while. That's usually as your blood alcohol is rising, and you can't really keep that going.
Jason White hit a wall in the early 90s. His best friend and bandmate committed suicide. His girlfriend of 3 years dumped him. He holed up in a cabin for 6 months with a supply of bourbon and red wine.
It was a terrible, terrible time in my life, and my head was full of tough stuff, tough memories.
Dr. Flaherty says, it's not just a cliche that we drink to forget.
Memory and creativity have a very complicated interaction. There are a few studies that show that decreasing your memory, shutting it off, can be helpful.
When I'm in that process, and when I'm going through a phase like that, I'm drinking to stop the noise in my head so I can express what I'm feeling in my heart.
The songs White wrote in the cabin were backed by a major label, and now he's got a big career as a songwriter. But he's worried that if he stopped drinking, he'd never be able to write another song. And that might be true.
There have been a bunch of studies showing that alcohol doesn't actually help creativity. What it does is it lowers your judgment so that you think what you're writing is more creative. It reminds me a little of William Stafford, who said that all you have to do to get rid of writer's block is just lower your standards. But that's a legitimate thing, and that if you're judging your work less harshly, you may actually feel more liberated to produce it.
It's hard to want to get out and just air your dirty laundry in front of a bunch of people, you know?
But here's the funny thing. White's biggest success wasn't written while he was drinking. Years ago, a friend left a marijuana bud on his coffee table. He wasn't a pot smoker, but he popped it in a corncob pipe, lit it up, and in 40 minutes wrote a song called Red Right. It was a huge hit for Tim Dr. Flaherty says scientists are only beginning to understand how marijuana actually works in the brain.
One of the important aspects of creative attention is often hyper-focused in certain ways, and yet you have to be able to pay attention to relevant things that you're not expecting. Marijuana seems to help that focus.
Scientists are studying whether pot helps with divergent thinking, the free associative idea-generating state that's considered an index for creativity.
There's a study that shows that it helps it. There's another study that says that it doesn't have an effect and maybe even makes it worse.
They're inconclusive partly because it's so hard to study creativity. The experiments might ask you to find a link between a series of words, like cottage, Swiss, and cake. And if you're stunned, then maybe you already know the answer is cheese. Of course, artists have been conducting their own experiments on thought and creativity for generations. Fred Thomas is a well-respected painter who's incorporated actual drugs into his collage-like paintings, including marijuana leaves.
So there was this funny conversation that I was having with pot at that point in my life, and I think it did ultimately inform the imagery and the sensibility of the work.
His early pieces were more geometric, minimalist, but as he started coming into his own as an artist in the 80s, he began to explore the synergism between art and drugs in a more intentional way. His work became more ornate and complex. His collages burst with swirling colors and images of nature, birds, insects, and canvas leaves themselves. He's kind of a late bloomer psychedelic artist.
I think a lot of the psychedelic art was kind of packaged by hippie culture, and I was just a consumer of it before I even actually took psychedelic drugs or smoked pot. In a lot of respects, it kind of maybe influenced what the experience was supposed to be like.
That raises a question. Is there something about the 60s aesthetic, those intricate patterns of heavy music, that's actually caused by the effects of pop? Thomas thinks it is.
You know, I think this idea of like kind of repetitious, say, mark making, that's the hallmark of stoners and outsider artists. There's something that marijuana has that allows that kind of activity to come to the forefront, create these rhythms, visual rhythms for the mind.
So how do alcohol and marijuana compare? Alcohol might put you in a creative state for a little while, silencing your inner critic and your bad memories. But pretty quickly, your work is going to deteriorate. Marijuana can help with attention and focus, but it makes some people lose motivation. What if you could boost creative thinking without the side effects and health hazards? Alice Flaherty is working with a brain stimulation treatment that doesn't involve drugs at all. There's just one small drop.
The kind that I use with my patients involves a surgical implantation of electrodes, and most people aren't that fond of creativity that they would be willing to mess with that.
You can imagine the sci-fi scenarios, but I think it's safe to say that for now, the artistic set will probably stick with their bourbon and bombs. For Studio 260, I'm Mike Chang.
What about you? Have you ever accomplished anything great, creative or otherwise, as a result of using pot or alcohol? Leave us a comment at studio360.org. Switching now from Studio 420 back to Studio 360, DJ Otter doesn't just hear music when he's got his headphones on.
When I listen to Thelonious Monk's music, I hear his hands. I hear actions. I hear his
The jazz composer Vijay Iyer is next in Studio 360 from PRI and WNYC. Stay with us.
Meet and mingle with other public radio fans at monthly parties in the green space. Come for snacks and drinks and stay for fun like trivia, wine tasting, and salsa dancing. Complete schedule and tickets at wnyc.org/events.
WNYC is supported by the Metropolitan Museum of Art, presenting the passions of Jean-Baptiste Carpel. The exhibition spans the 19th century French sculptor's brief yet meteoric career and displays Carpel's talent for depicting flesh and blood in stone. Review at netmuseum.org. The Joyce Theater, presenting Ballet Kaja's reimagined Snow White at Lincoln Center's David H. Koch Theater with costumes by Jean-Paul Gaultier. April 23rd through 27th. Tickets on sale now at davidhkochtheater.com.
I'm Kurt Anderson, and this is Studio 360. Vijay Iyer, at age 42, is one of the great living jazz musicians, although a lot of his music isn't what you recognize as jazz. Along with leading a piano trio and playing duets with a saxophonist, Iyer composes chamber music, and he's written a song cycle about the Iraq War. Last year, he was named a MacArthur Genius, and this year, he released his first album on the prestigious label ECM. It's called Mutations, and when he came in, I asked him to start us off with a piano electronics piece from it called Golden. on piano and laptop. Was there part 1 that I missed? Or
You know what happened when we were making this album, Mutations? There were 2 parts to it, and the second part ended up being split off from the first part at the end of the record. And so that's basically what happened. That's what this part 2 is. It sort of starts in the middle. But I kind of like that.
Yes.
Where you have to ask what the first part is.
So on this record, there are 3 piano pieces, but the heart of it is this piece for strings in 10 sections. I want to play a little bit of one of them called Mutation 3 Canon.
Shit.
That was Vijay Iyer's Mutation 3 Canon. So you wrote that piece almost a decade ago, but this is really the first time you put this much of what I'd call chamber music on an album.
Right. So there's never really been a chance to put things like this on albums. But I've been having these works performed for a while. And, you know, I was never trained as a classical pianist, and I would never call myself one. But I also did have 15 years of my own pieces. So I have actually some kind of... And I played Mendelssohn concerto, and played in orchestras, and I did all that stuff. I'm not sure I was awesome at it or anything, but you know, I also know what it feels like to be that kind of musician who doesn't really feel empowered to improvise. Even though I am an improviser on piano, I was never an improviser on piano. So that's, for me, an interesting kind of like the Incredible Hulk comes to mind. This other side inside of you.
Yes,
Yes, right, something like that. So I guess I know that sensibility from both sides. And so I wanted to see I'll figure out ways to bring it together.
When you started off in academia, you got your PhD in cognition from UC Berkeley, and then decided, I'm not going to be an academic, I'm not going to be a scientist, I'm going to play jazz.
I was playing music the entire time. Sure. I've been playing music since I was 3. And I didn't really know that I could make it my life until pretty late in the game. You know, basically until I was maybe 23 or 24. That's when I decided, okay, this is my life. That was after having tried a lot of other things. And then some people helped me create my own doctoral program in music perception and cognition at UC Berkeley.
Did the studying cognition of music change your music?
Well, a lot of the ideas that I kind of was working with and that I learned in those years.
Damn you!
They've kind of driven my creative process over the last 15 years since then. Music is an embodied process. It's something we do. We have this constant influx of sensation on multiple channels, and we respond to it by doing things, turning our heads in the direction of a sound or reaching for something. You know, music is us. It came from us. It came from the things that we do with our bodies, including singing, including stomping and clapping, all those other things that we know music is. So it seems like the obvious. It seems like stating the obvious, but
as so much of academia.
Yeah, well, it really. The thing was that there was a field. You know, there is this existing research field, but it sort of hadn't really been thought about in this way before. It's always like, well, how do we perceive music? As if it lands on us like a flying saucer or something. You know? Not that it is the sound of us. When I listen to Thelonious Monk's music, that's the most important music in the world to me. I hear his hands, you know? I hear actions in music. I don't hear just sounds in the abstract.
Vijay Iyer, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure.
And before you leave, can we hear your actions one more time?
Oh, okay.
And what are you going to play?
something that was on my first album in 1995. So I wrote it 20 years ago when I was young and foolish. And it's called Spellbound in Seconds.
Fucking asshole.
Cowrie Shells at the Shimmering Sea.
Great. The JR's latest album, Mutations, is out now. You can hear both of the songs he's played here in full at studio360.org.
See? Fucking playing around. Dumb shit.
And that's it for this hour of Studio 360. Thank you so much for listening. By the way, we're posting great stuff all week long on Facebook and at studio360.org. We want you to keep posting collective nouns for modern people. We've had great suggestions so far, including a suffering of hipsters and an enterprise of keep them coming. Studio 360 is a co-production of WNYC and PRI, Radio International. Our production team includes
Tom Lamont,
David Krasnow,
Jenny Lawton,
John Delore.
Sean Ramesburg, Matt Krasker,
Eric Moldenstein.
Julia Lowry Garza,
Rose Connolly.
Eliza Martin.
Andres Verapaldi.
thanks as always to WNYC's Chris Bannon. The music is by David Bentine.
This is your brain. This is Studio 360. This is your brain on Studio 360.
that actually makes very tasty.
Any questions?
Yeah, could I get that with some bacon and hash browns?
PRI, Public Radio International.
Next time in Studio 360, Lois Lowry's The Giver opened a new world of dystopian fiction to kids and makes some adults very uncomfortable.
They feel the book is too dark and sinister and frightening, and I sympathize with that.
Lois Lowry, next time in Studio 360 for PRI and WNYC.
Things Considered is coming up next on WNYC with all the day's news, headlines from NPR News and WNYC Newsroom. This week on Storytelling Series, The Moth, hear from public defender who was long for an encyclopedia
That's
around
fucked up. I hate
and a
that.
woman who must unload a garbage full of romantic memorabilia. Those stories and others tonight at 7 a.m. 820 WNYC. Coming up at 6 tonight on 93.9 FM, It's a Prairie Home Companion. The Nets beat Toronto 94-87 in the NBA playoffs today. We have a mostly sunny sky, 67 degrees in Central Park. 5 o'clock.
WNYC support comes from the Municipal Art Society, presenters of James Walk, New York City on May 3rd and 4th, celebrating artist Dane Jacobs with over 100 free guided walks throughout New York's 5 boroughs. More info at mas.org/JamesWalk.
This is WNYC, AM, FM, and HD, New York.
The National Training Center at Fort Irwin tries to prepare soldiers for everything.
If we see a new enemy tactic, we seek to train it here.
But the biggest enemy they face may be spending cuts. For Saturday, April 19th, it's All Things Considered from NPR West. Finally, Ukrainians are afraid of an invasion will break down the capabilities of the Russian army. Also, the world's biggest democracy votes.
The interest in this election is enormous. It's been defined as a battle for the soul of India, the direction of the country, the revival of Asia's third largest economy.
And looking for a feel-good book? Stay away from Douglas Copeland's new novel.
Why not just write something that might actually damage a person's soul if you're
First, this news.
From NPR News in Washington, I'm Windsor Johnston. The death toll now stands at 32 in the South Korean ferry disaster, and an estimated 270 people
So
are
stupid.
still missing. The BBC's Jonathan Head reports divers are battling dangerous conditions in their attempts to reach the missing passengers.
They've retrieved 3 bodies today from found near the ship. They can't do much more than that. It's a very, very big operation. The relatives might be very happy to leave the progress, but these are very, very strong currents out there. The ship is lying between 10 and 37 meters below the surface.
The BBC's Jonathan Head. Most of the passengers on board were high school students. The ship's captain has been charged with negligence and other offenses. 2 other crew members have been arrested. Federal appeals court judges in Colorado are weighing whether states can bar same-sex couples from marrying. That's after hearing arguments Thursday over Oklahoma's marriage law. Colorado Public Radio's Megan Murphy reports that week before, the judges heard a nearly identical case from Utah.
How the 10th Circuit Court ruled down to one judge, Jerome Holmes, had tough questions for both sides, but it seemed open to the idea that the Constitution protects a fundamental right to marry. Kyle Duff, president of Colorado's GLBT Bar Association, says the attorney for Oklahoma tried to argue that the 14th Amendment doesn't ensure a right to marry based on sexual orientation.
Judge Holmes was skeptical about that position and said, well, this is the same as voting for Virginia. That was about race, this really is about gender.
Utah and Oklahoma's gay marriage cases are currently the furthest along in the federal courts. Rulings are expected in the coming months and are likely to be appealed to the U.S. Supreme Court. For NPR News, I'm Megan Verleen in Denver.
Oklahoma City is marking 19 years since the deadly bombing of the Murrah Federal Building. 168 people died in an act of domestic terrorism. Oklahoma Governor Mary Fallin says the people of Oklahoma City have been able to overcome the horrific act.
The horror, the brutality, and the evil act on the Murrah building can never be forgotten. It can never be overstated. It was an attack that could have easily crippled our city, could have easily crippled our state. It could left our people hopeless, but it did not.
The city observed a moment of silence for each of the victims. This is NPR News in Washington.
In New York City for New York City police officials have changed the way officers respond to fires following the death of an officer. They'll now require officers responding to structures.
This is stupid. Why do I do stupid things like that?
Deputy Chief Kim Royster says an internal memo detailing the preliminary guidelines has been distributed to precincts. She says the new protocol replaces a memo distributed April 9th that had instructed officers to use the elevator up until 2 floors below a fire. The changes follow the death of Officer Dennis Guerra, who was overcome by smoke as he responded to a fire at a Coney Island apartment building on April 6th. Hoboken medical facilities are on high alert after a mumps outbreak at the Stevens Institute of Technology. The school says 8 men, all students, caught the virus even though they were fully vaccinated against it. Symptoms are flu-like and include swollen salivary glands. Dr. Mika Roberson, director of the emergency department at CarePoint Health Hoboken, says schools are ideal environments for contagious diseases to spread.
Easy to spread just by coughing, sneezing, intense laughter, running
Dr. Roberson says the mumps vaccine isn't completely effective, which is why even those who are fully immunized can still get it. Mumps isn't typically fatal for healthy adults, but can be very serious for pregnant women and unvaccinated children. Animal rights activists protesting outside Liam Neeson's home today say they don't agree with the actor that New York's carriage races should keep working. Neeson didn't appear as about 50 demonstrators filled the sidewalk in front of his Manhattan apartment building. They held signs with such slogans as Liam Neeson, stop supporting cruelty. The 61-year-old actor was a vocal supporter of the city's carriage horse industry. His publicist hasn't immediately responded to a request for comment. Mayor de Blasio has pledged to ban the horse-drawn carriages and replace them with stop cars. In the NBA playoffs today, it was the Nets over Toronto 94-87. In baseball tonight, Yankees at Tampa Bay and Atlanta at the Mets, both happening at 7 o'clock tonight. Clear tonight with a low of 41, sunny tomorrow with a high of 64, mostly clear tomorrow night with a low of 42, mostly sunny Monday with a high 65, mostly sunny 67 now at 5:06.
NPR comes from Esurance, insurance for the modern world. With a video appraisal tool, customers can video chat with a claims adjuster in real time. Esurance.com.
It's All Things Considered from NPR West. I'm Those aren't real bullets being fired. They're blanks. In fact, everything around me right now, this village where I'm standing, is fake. The town has everything an ordinary town would have. There are houses, shops, and a marketplace with goods made of plastic, with its bread and meat and vegetables. There's a mosque and a hotel and armed servants. It looks like we're in Afghanistan. It's actually a U.S. Army base in the middle of the Mojave Desert, the Fort Irwin National Training Center. Okay. If you want to see how a decade of war has profoundly changed the way we train our soldiers to fight, this is where you come. As the U.S. combat mission in Afghanistan winds down, we came to find out how the end of the wars changed the mission here. That's our cover story. Even though no real rounds have been fired, there are explosive charges. It's not safe for us to stay here. Our main destination is a place where they are using live rounds, which makes sense if you're trying to simulate war as close to as possible. Colonel Cameron Cannon makes producer Rebecca Butcher and me don our flak jackets and helmets before we get into the armored vehicle. Colonel Canton commands the Army's 3rd Cavalry Regiment. They're training here in Fort Irwin before their final deployment to Afghanistan. We're driving through the Mojave Desert about halfway between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, but many of the soldiers we talk to tell us there are parts of the desert that are indistinguishable from Afghanistan. At a checkpoint, a sign in red, danger, live fire in progress. The base is huge. We drive about 35 miles through a number of regions with made-up names, past the fake city of Sharp Darwaza Jamia and north into Urjabat district, until we arrive at Goat Mountain.
It's one of the many villages here in DC. We took a small village and we went to over bonfire and for light fires.
rooms in these buildings. Really, it's a great little training facility.
We walk up a gravelly hill toward the buildings, but before we get to the top, I see something that stops me. It's a body in a soldier's uniform lying on the ground next to a stretcher. A few steps closer, and we can see it's a dummy. Colonel Kaplan explains it's a leftover from an earlier exercise, another part of the full immersion combat simulation.
Training is loading casualty in these trucks. Big monitor control kits, replicate the weight and size. We made them yesterday. It was almost too big. There was an explosion next to one of the generators, and the soldiers ran out there. And training suppliers, APPs, and they're using new launch kits. The soldiers respond. They come to a scene where there's people dressed in uniform and screaming pain, and it looks absolutely you can't beat the kind of training. Although it is hard. There's some soldiers that are really disturbed. But it's always better to go through that here for the first time in some relationship.
We continue up the hill. Kaplan explains that today his men and women are practicing for a situation that has been deadly for both soldiers and civilians in Iraq and Afghanistan. Hearing a structure that contains a mix of innocence and combatants. It's incredibly high stakes. Hesitate and you could die. Pull the trigger too fast and you could kill a child.
This continues to build the insider threat, which is training soldiers to deal with a situation that goes from normal to a situation where they have to defend themselves rapidly. So we changed some soldiers up here. It's like
For this exercise, the soldiers are in a one-story house on the top of this hill. It's meant to be an office where the soldiers have been sent to talk to locals and then face an ambush. The building is sort of like a Hollywood set, but instead of there being no fourth wall, there's no roof. For the same reason as a Hollywood set, these exercises are filmed and reviewed, the same way NFL coaches review game tape. The exercise begins with normal introductions before the situation suddenly turns into When they clear the building, they debrief, and then do it again, and again. Each team does this exercise at least 4 times until it's second nature. Every soldier in the squadron gets a turn, even if they won't see direct combat.
My name is Maritza Mustafa. I will be the logistical officer for the SWAT team AUP convention.
Captain Mustafa is one of the few soldiers here who will be going to Afghanistan for the first time. Her job there will be to work with and train Afghan uniformed police. That means a lot of interacting with locals in potentially sensitive circumstances. She's been learning about Afghan culture and customs, and more subtle things like the way body language is different there.
Well, for me, it gives me a better perspective of the security forces that will be, in charge of protecting us downrange as we go and conduct key leader engagements.
What's it like? Have you had the situation where you have these actors who are portraying locals and that sort of thing?
Oh, that definitely gave me a perspective into what we're going into. It helped me come up with the techniques to engage them, talk to them, and understand their culture at the same time.
We heard over and over how tailored this training is to specific situations these soldiers will face in Afghanistan. From the realistic villages and cities, to the stark terrain, to the bloody fighting. This is a mini Afghanistan. Major General Ted Martin is the commander in charge of this.
If you were to go back to the National Training Center pre-9/11, it was called Heavy Metal Combat. 14 days in the octagon, and it was a clean battlefield. It was clean in that there was friendly and enemy and nothing in between. No cities, nothing getting away. Actually, the towns and villages here were a direct result of lessons learned from the battlefield in Iraq and Afghanistan. We need to learn how to fight in an urban environment, how to also peacefully coexist.
Now, that's one of these things. People are hearing that two major conflicts when you over time figure out what you're dealing with. Now, I can't imagine that it would still make sense to have training in the Rocky or Afghan villages.
Oh, well,
See, I disagree with you on that. But we're not going to lose the cities. We're not going to give it up. We're not going to give it. It doesn't matter what flavor as long as it's speaking a different language or culture you like to study, we're just kind of have to promote a little bit like Middle Eastern cities. It doesn't really matter. We can change the name of the cities. In fact, we do. If it's in the old Iraqi days, they have different name, now they have Afghan, and in the future we'll move to probably change them to another name, just to keep people thinking.
But it will take more than a name change. The cities we saw were complete with mosques, signs everywhere in Arabic. Actual Afghans have applied to live in fake towns and cities, playing the parts of locals, village elders, and insurgents. To give this sprawling fort a makeover, transform it into something other than an ultra-realistic desert training ground will be costly. But in the absence of a specific conflict, General Martin says that some changes have already begun. Now that the last Afghan-bound brigade has come through, Fort Irwin is focusing on the tactics of tomorrow.
We have to be prepared for uncertainty in the future. Our job is to, if we see a new enemy tactic, we seek to train here. We can look at, would you think that brigade combat is that we have to worry about cyber warfare? Yes. So we train now, and I never would have thought 10 years ago we would do that.
The training center has also been bolstering chemical and biological weapons training facilities. All of this costs money. The military's training budget is billions of dollars, but the budget is shrinking. Last year, sequestration cuts forced the National Training Center to cancel almost a quarter of its training rotations. And Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel has announced that the size of the Army will shrink dramatically in the coming years.
The recommendations favor a smaller and more capable force, putting a premium on rapidly deployable, self-sustaining platforms that can defeat more technologically advanced adversaries.
Todd Harrison is a military budget expert at the Center for Strategic and Budgetary Assessments. He doesn't see any evidence that the Army is actually getting what it's targeted the way Hagel envisions. In fact, he sees training centers like the one at Fort Irwin going back to traditional, very broad training, despite
They talk about it as full spectrum operations. So they're going to be training troops in a wide variety of contingencies, everything from combined arms operations, tank battles and that nature, all the way over to counterinsurgency, counterterrorism type operations, operating in a chemical environment or biological environment. And I think in the future years, as funding becomes more constrained, we may need to focus that training more on the most likely scenarios and maybe tailor it so that not all units get the same training, kind of a specialization, if you will, in readiness.
Readiness is a word we've heard over and over at the National Training Center. It's more than a buzzword. Real readiness means that when combat occurs, fewer soldiers and fewer civilians die. But when it comes to potential threats, the list of scenarios the military could prepare for is almost infinitely expandable. The enemy could be insurgents or a regular army. The terrain could be anything imaginable, including outer space or cyberspace. How many different scenarios the military can realistically prepare for, that's a question the President and Congress will need to settle. From Ukraine, and we look at Russia's enormous military. New tanks, jets, and artillery are before the massive Ukrainian border. But below the surface, Russia's military might not be so impressive. That's the next part of All Things Considered.
The movie director Steven Soderbergh is making his New York theater debut with the play The Library, now at the public. WNYC News editor and theater critic Jennifer Vanasco has this review.
If I had to choose one word to describe The Library, I'd say that's an odd thing to say about a play that explores the aftermath of a school shooting, but it's true. The set is spare and elegant. Just 5 people devoting ponies or study tables or platforms. And the lighting design infuses the space with a rich, saturated color light, as if in a rock painting. The look from the color.
Damn you fucking asshole!
We're asked to look at the shooting as a puzzle and to feel it as a gut punch. This makes it less dark than it could have been, perhaps more entertaining and less resonant. The library is an issue. It's more paperback and than nuanced literary fiction. For WNYC, I'm Jennifer Vanasco.
The Library is playing at the Public Theater through April 27th. For a full theater review, go to WNYC.org.
day of Passover, how do you picture God? Does God matter differently to rich and poor? And for Tuesday, Earth Day, what environmental threats are you most afraid of? And what kinds of lifestyle trade-offs would you make to stop global warming? Family meetings on the Brian Mayr Show, weekdays at 10 a.m. on WNYC.
WNYC received support from the New York Botanical Garden, presenting the Antique Garden Furniture Fair, featuring over 30 exhibitors as well as a specialty plant sale, April 25th through 27th. Tickets at nybg.org. WNYC gratefully acknowledges the backing of our corporate underwriters, and we would like to add your business to our diverse list of supporters. To become a WNYC underwriter, call Senior Director Lori Preacher at 646-829-4477.
It's All Things Considered from NPR West. I'm Arun Roth. This week, diplomats from Ukraine, the European Union, Russia, and the U.S. brokered an agreement calling on all illegally armed groups in Ukraine to disarm and to end the occupation of public spaces and buildings. The Ukrainian interim defense minister has also called for an easier peace. Despite these attempts to calm tensions, pro-Europe camps in the West and the separatists in the East don't appear to be stepping back. Eleanor Beardsley is in the capital of is in the city of Donetsk and sends us from here.
So we're on our way to the occupied buildings of Donetsk. Some people are calling this an occupied city by the secessionists, but it really doesn't feel like it. We're strolling along Pushkin Boulevard. It's really actually a pedestrian walkway that goes through the heart of the city. There's families out strolling, baby carriages, musicians, young people, cafes. It's absolutely a relaxed atmosphere on a Saturday afternoon. As we approach the occupied government building, the atmosphere changes. There's a wall of tires around the perimeter with signs saying, "No fascists wanted here." There's also a display out front of photos and descriptions of the Nazi occupation of Kiev with a focus on the Ukrainians who collaborated with them. The exhibit is clearly trying to draw a comparison between pro-Europe occupiers of Maidan Square today and the Nazi collaborators of the past. 48-year-old teacher Lyubov Nesterienko says it's a shame that Europe and America aren't getting the truth about things. Nesterienko says Kiev is full of nationalists and fascists, and the current government is a band of criminals. This gathering feels like a step back into history. Patriotic World War II ballads play over loudspeakers. Old men walk around wearing war medals. Though Kiev's interim government offered concessions to the separatists on Friday, proposing a plan to give eastern regions more autonomy and the Russian land a special status, nobody here seems to believe it or care. People say they either want to become a separate country or join Russia, and it's not just the older crowd longing for a return to Soviet days. A group of young people handing out flyers wear bright red t-shirts marked USSR 2.0, suggesting a computer upgrade from the original version.
2.0 это новая версия, обновленная, улучшенная.
Group leader Igor Stravinsky says they don't want a return to the past, but a new, modern version of the Soviet Union. We make our way to the barricaded entrance of the building where we meet a young militant, Archon, who wears a face mask. He carries a bat in one hand and a cup of tea in the other.
Ничего не знаю, Майдан
No, you're not going to be witnesses. And it doesn't matter what they do in Maidan. We won't vacate until there is a referendum of the independence of Donetsk province.
As we leave the site, we run into Yuri Nikolai Kurachun, who wears a large backpack and says he's been hitchhiking around his country. He's visited Kiev's Maidan Square and now seen the protesters here. Kurachun says he's not taking sides. The protesters are like two brothers, he says, two faces of the same country. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Donetsk.
The tension in eastern Ukraine is heightened by the large presence of Russian troops along the border. The Russian government has training exercises. Today, Vladimir Putin's spokesman said they are there because of the stability of Ukraine. Russia is in the middle of a planned upgrade and expansion of its military forces. But Mark Pagliatti, professor at the Center for Global Affairs at NYU, says Russia's military has its limits, and Putin would not be quick to start another war.
Instead, it's about using Russian military as a fearsome engine of threat. And at the moment, we know that Kiev has been limited as to how it feels it can deal with the paramilitaries in the east of the country, because precisely Russia warned that if they unleash the military, then Russia might regard that as something that it needs to respond to. So, from Putin's point of view, he needs enough of a force to catch the incredible threat, but he hopes never to actually have to test that in open war.
Can you give us a sense of how capable is Russia's military?
In terms of comparisons with the US military, let alone NATO as a whole, it's still very, very weak, which is one reason why they've been using the tactics they have of deniable operations using local agents and so forth, rather than just simply rolling out straight forward.
Well, is there a stark difference between what we see in the evening news and the rest of the country's military?
Yes, I think what we realise is Russia is still trying to maintain an army that is frankly too large for its budget. It's trying to maintain an army of 820,000 soldiers, in many ways a relic of the Soviet times. They've spent a lot of money, but what that has meant is in effect it's got two armies. There are the relatively elite forces, the naval infantry, the marines, who we saw in Crimea, as well as the airborne special forces, who are good. They're not to the absolute top level of NATO standards, but they are very good. The rest are still, despite the amount of money that's been spent, a lot of it has been embezzled, still really quite reminiscent of the Soviet country. They're largely conscripts, they're not terribly well trained, they're only on one-year contracts, their equipment is at best so-so, there are all kinds of problems with indiscipline, even just a very, very sort of bullying culture, which leads actually people to desert and die every year. There's still that large underdeveloped force behind them.
So you mentioned Russia's massive military budget and how it's out of scale to the Russian economy. At the same time, Vladimir Putin says this is just the beginning. It's been reported that defense spending in Russia reached $60 billion in 2013. And this year, that could increase by 18%. Is maintaining a massive military even feasible for Russia at that scale?
It's hard to say this is sustainable. Even before we started looking at a world with sanctions and so forth, it was clear that there were problems ahead of the Russian economy, which is still entirely dependent on oil and gas exports. There's a whole variety of economic problems beginning to come over the horizon. Even by the Russians' own admission, a large amount of money that they're spending is either wasted through embezzlement or simple inefficiency, or else just simply because there's a large army, rather than on new technology, new training, and so forth.
When you have to ask, what about the civilians? Are typical Russians on the street concerned about this massive defense budget?
People don't have a problem with high defense spending. Russia historically always has an importance of security in general, so discourse about politics. What people do worry about is actually when the money's not available for things that are actually closer to their hearts, when the pensions can't keep up with inflation, when the roads aren't being repaired, when the railways fall further into disarray. At present, people aren't drawing the connection between military spending and these problems. In due course, though, the risk for Putin is they will.
Mark Yati, Professor at the Center for Global Affairs at NYU. Mark, thank you.
My pleasure.
Once again, you're listening to All Things Considered from NPR West. I'm Arun Rock. It's a common line used to describe India, the world's most populous democracy. When you really get a sense of what that means during a national election, there are 114 million voters. So many people in so many places, they can't do it all at once. The election is held in 9 stages over 6 weeks. Today, they're about half done. NPR's Julie McCarthy in New Delhi has been following these elections closely. She says voter turnout this year has been substantially higher than in the last national election in 2009.
The interest in this election is enormous. It's been defined as a battle for the soul of India, the direction of the country, the revival of Asia's third largest economy. So it's considered high stakes, and not the least of which by all those young, new voters, 100 million of them, who want jobs, who feel they have a stake in this election because it's about their future.
So the two main parties at play in this battle for the soul of India, there's the incumbents, the Indian National Congress Party. They've been in power now for 10 years, and the BJP, the opposing Bharatiya Janata Party. How are they running their campaigns against that?
Congress Party Arun Sonia Gandhi was really adrift at the start of this campaign. It's as if they had ceded the ground to the opposition BJP. The fires of anti-incumbency are lapping around them, but there was no response after 10 years of power, allegations of mega-billion-dollar grab schemes. There doesn't seem to be a vision presented. By the time Congress up and saw this juggernaut coming at them in the form of the BJP and Narendra Modi, it seemed late. Rahul Gandhi, who's the heir apparent to this party, is in neophyte, and he's battling against Narendra Modi, who is one of the shrewdest, most strategic, brilliant young men that India has produced in decades, and he's hugely controversial as well. He's declared himself a Hindu nationalist, religious tension not far from the surface, but that's not really the controversy that people want to discuss here. He's stirring the electorate with the promise of change and reviving the economy.
You know, talking about Narendra Modi, there are a lot of people in India who are surprised to see him poised to become the next prime minister because a lot of people say that he has blood on his hands for not having done enough to stop communal violence in his home state in Gujarat back in 2002. Is that not an issue?
I detect among the mainstream electorate no great devotion to that issue or a willingness to fight. They say there's going to be plenty of riots of communal nature, meaning religious and other places. You don't see people going after the chief minister there. For the most part, the ordinary Indian is unbothered by it, and there are members of the Muslim community who tell me they want a chance. We need to split the economy, and they'll do it. That said,
Alright, I think I just time for my personal best. 132 something.
Intellectuals also will fault the notion that this man is going to be elected because they see him as a truly divisive figure.
Now, you mentioned Rahul Gandhi, some former prime minister, he great-grandson of Nehru. He's risen in prominence, but has he really fought hard?
There was this hope that the torch would pass to a new generation and that he would be the one to lead it, but they're not following. He's too green, he's too inexperienced, and there is a young India out there, and they have very different attitudes from their parents about dynastic politics, which is what really he represents as part of the Gandhi family. The young people are aspirational, and many would prefer meritocracy, which is something that Modi himself has brilliantly played up. The former tea server are more closely taking it up.
NPR's Julie McCarthy. Julie, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Focus.
Gets lost in the news about heroin and the rising number of fatal overdoses is how hard some addicts are trying to get clean. Karen Brown of New England Public Radio has been following one young man as he seeks not only recovery, but redemption with some unlikely help.
Mia Rossi and Lance Rice are sipping tea at their kitchen
See?
table.
Fucking idiot. Why didn't you go over there or something?
Last day,
It was just dumb.
steak,
Damn it, see?
fruit salad, I don't know what the other thing was.
Fried potatoes with some kale and
This scene of food and friendship is both ordinary and remarkable. A year ago, Rice and Rossi were strangers on opposite sides of a criminal court case. Rice, who's 23, was among several heroin addicts arrested for a spate of robberies in the small town of Turner's Falls, 2 hours west of Boston.
Apparently I came through that window right over there. Screen broke.
You push the screen up.
Rice says he was too high to remember robbing Rossi's home. He was later arrested with prescription pills from the bathroom and an eyeglass from her desk.
The only person, what did you know, automatically or something that did your home. I mean, you did it.
Well, I did hate your plans, for a few weeks there. Everybody did it, So I felt violated.
Rossi is a 54-year-old artist and shopkeeper. After police returned her items, she found a photo on it that Rice had taken of himself. Behind his vacant, heavy-lidded expression, she says she sensed a good person, but a lost soul. She took the day off work to watch a sentencing at the courthouse.
I saw Lance go by in shackles and orange, and I just burst into tears. Just this beautiful young man could be my young man. Shackles? He's an addict, It's just not a criminal.
Rossi is a recovering alcoholic herself. She knew the road to sobriety would be rough. So when Rice finished his 60-day jail sentence, she invited him to visit her downtown gift shop before he left for court-mandated rehab. He was surprised and touched by her attention, and after a few hugs, she gave him a good luck pebble, and he promised to write. Today, Rossi pulls out a stack of his letters, all of them decorated with colored pencil. They wrote each other weekly as Rice stayed clean through his first 90-day program and then clashed with the staff at a halfway house. He hitchhiked back to his mother's apartment, and rather than go back to heroin and turn himself in, he was promptly sent back to jail.
I lost all hope when they put me back in that cell.
Rossi says his letters were full of despair. She wrote to his probation officer asking for leniency.
I was very concerned about him and unable to get in to see him.
Rice was eventually sent home under strict conditions: daily AA meetings, therapy, random drug tests, and a weekly appearance before the judge. He says he probably couldn't meet those conditions if not for the help of Nina Rossi. She gives him rides to the courthouse, pays for taxis, cooks dinner, and finds odd jobs.
I'm really concerned about that whole heroin epidemic, but I can't do anything about it. I can't help hands, you know?
I always say that there was like something, the higher power that made me rob these houses. I could have picked any house on the street. Why did my instinct bring me here? But in my situation,
These days, Rice comes in through Rossi's front door. He's gotten to know her fiancé, her dog, and her parrot. He often sits at her piano to relax.
okay, so this is the song I played for Nina the first time that I came up with.
The song is called Too Late to Apologize. Only he did apologize, and Rossi forgave him. At this point, they'd rather focus on keeping Rice sober. He's come close to relapsing and got a prescription for the anti-opiate drug Suboxone, which helps fend off cravings. But they know the bleak statistics facing heroin addicts. Most go back to drugs after treatment.
Well, I think about when I thought what would happen if he started using again. That would be devastating. I'd have to practice some real detachment to get through that.
You know, it wouldn't be Nina's fault at all if I would have did something. And it was something I wanted to lose or something like that. That also probably does help.
In the past year, Rice says 5 of his former drug buddies have died of heroin overdoses. But he has other plans. He's applying to community college for the fall, and he's going to bring Rossi's Pebble along for good luck. For NPR News, I'm Karen Burton.
Coming up, fun facts. Tyler Telescope.
Well, the issue 30 next to bad decisions. The music you get the most nostalgic about later in life is the music that you listen to when you're 23 and a half. Look up Beetlejuice on YouTube.
We eventually got talking about his wicked new album. That's coming up in the next part of All Things Considered from NPR News.
Forget about downloads, MP3s, even CDs. Today is Record Store Day, a celebration of the stores that actually still sell those vinyl LPs. This year the event comes just a week after Manhattan's iconic music superstar J.R. Music World closed its doors to redesign its space on Park Road. Gary Scotty, owner of Scotty's Record Shop in Southern New Jersey, says Record Store Day now marks a resurgence for his business.
Back in the heyday of our business in the late 90s, the Saturday before Christmas, Christmas Eve were always our biggest days of the year. This past year, Record Store Day was the busiest day we've ever had in the history of our business.
Many musicians prepare exclusive Record Store Day releases that sell out during the first few hours. Scotty says the most in-demand items this year will be new vinyl from Bruce Springsteen, R.E.M., Dave Matthews Band, and Spoon.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from Progressive Insurance, with more than 30,000 local independent agents. Information available at progressive.com. The Park Foundation, dedicated to heightening public awareness of critical issues at parkfoundation.org. And the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, working to build a culture of health for all Americans. On the web at rwjf.org. WNYC is supported by Montefiore Medical Center, University Hospital for Albert Einstein College of Medicine, committed to providing care that returns patients to their active lives, ranked among the top hospitals in the New York area by U.S. News and World Report. More at inspiredmedicine.org.
I'm Mr. Johnston with these headlines. Divers are continuing rescue efforts to recover bodies from a sunken South Korean ferry. At least 32 people are dead. The captain of the ferry and 2 crew members have been arrested. Searchers on Mount Everest are trying to find 3 Sherpa guides who went missing after an avalanche. They were preparing the route for next month's climbing season when they were swept away. The bodies of 13 others have been recovered. A gripping landslide in the northwest Wyoming resort town of Jackson is expected to get worse. So far, it has split a house in 2 and forced workers to abandon efforts to stabilize the hillside. I'm Mr. Johnston, NPR News in Washington.
Clear sky tonight with a low of 41, sunny tomorrow with a high of 64. Mostly clear tomorrow night, a low of 42, and mostly sunny again on Monday, the high 65. It's mostly sunny, 67 now at 540.
Hey, bastard.
From NPR West, it's all Benson Center. I'm Rudy. It's time for the Internet. Carlos Watson is the co-founder of the online magazine Awesome. Each week he joins us to talk about what's new and what's next. Welcome back, Carlos.
We're always good to be with you.
So earlier in the show today, we reported on the National Training Center in Fort Irwin. This is where soldiers go through total immersion simulations in these fake Afghan villages. And you guys you're onto a weirdly similar story, but it's involving a fake hospital.
You bet. So here in the Bay Area, Kaiser, the big managed care organization with like 9 million members, has figured out that fake hospital is often the best way to provide better care and in some cases more efficient care.
So how does it happen?
With a 37,000 square foot
Damn
campus, they literally built what looks like a hospital from the cubicle to the testing equipment. They not only have all the things you're familiar with, but they're starting to test new gadgets. It's a little 007. So they've got this digital health unit. It's essentially a mobile trailer where you could go in and that's where you do your doctor's visit. All the equipment's there, the doctors watch you, get all the data, and you've never got to go across town, or in some cases across the country to get care.
Sounds almost a little bit creepy going by the doctors. Is this maybe easing physicians out of the process a little bit?
I think, ideally it'll help more people get care and more quality care. That particular example. I'll give you another one. This actually is more low tech. So every year, over 1 million people, unfortunately, get the wrong prescriptions from nurses, often because the nurses were distracted or other things were going on. And so the folks in Kaiser said, let's simulate a real environment and send it out and fancy things to do. These things that they call do not disturb sashes. So they basically are kind of a $10 sash that nurses are able to put around them while they're putting together your medicine. And that by itself in some tests lowered the number of mistakes by 50%. So it is both a today and a tomorrow kind of innovation center.
Wow. So you have another story that's about another unusual use for space. This is right here in Los Angeles.
Indeed. So as you know, vacant lots can be a huge problem in lots of cities. And in South Central Los Angeles, for example, people were seeing lots of vacant lots, but the other problem they had was they weren't comfortable to walk in. And so a community group called Los Angeles Community Health Council has created and about to launch this website called LA which they call basically a Zillow for vacant lots. Here are your vacant lots. Here are people who want to turn those into parks. You guys get together, as they used to say, talk amongst yourselves.
I noticed before reading this, the kind of hoops that people have to jump through to develop a vacant lot. But even if you're turning it into, say, a garden, the city makes you hire an architect.
It has been absolutely dense and crazy, and it's the worst nightmare of a lot of people who see these problems and want to take action and realize that you've got to get a number of permits. Sometimes you got to spend an extraordinary amount of money, and ultimately the folks in Los Angeles realize that there is a bigger opportunity to kind of pair people up. And so you'll be able to get using the website next month, and you'll be able to look at all the different vacant lots for someone looking to kind of buy or transfer. The steps you have to take and be coordinated, and ultimately the belief is make it a lot easier for those vacant lots to go from unused to either rental homes, purchased homes, or even parks.
Carlos Watson is the co-founder of the online magazine Awesome. You can explore all the stories we talked about at npr.org/news and next. Carlos, thanks again.
Arun, thanks so much. Have a great weekend.
Usually when I do an interview, I'm the one asking the questions. But when I sat down with writer Douglas Copeland this week, he had some questions for me.
You're trying to get rid of the body?
Not a human body. Some I was unqualified to answer.
Why do different parts of the body taste different? How does liver taste like liver? Tongue taste like tongue?
And for some reason, this.
Have you done music? High school kind of stuff. I can't say very well. I live in I'm digressing.
Digressing from our real topic, Copeland's new novel. It's called Worst Person Ever. It's a profane and shocking book that centers around a completely loathsome individual named Raymond Gutt.
Okay, imagine there was this really bitter English guy who had Tourette's and swore all the time, except he doesn't have Tourette's, he just swears a lot. To the point where he also becomes like a performance art.
Raymond is struggling to pay off debt he's acquired from making bad decisions in his miserable life. So he ends up taking a job as a cameraman on a remote island.
Which is a show I love, by the way.
Raymond has no idea he's getting into. He also has no clue that he really is the worst person.
Of course, he thinks of himself as being like Jason Bourne, except he doesn't actually. Of course, every woman he's ever really done wrong is like magically appears one by one until they're all in swell things trapped on an island together.
And Raymond, as you said, well, he doesn't really think he's done anything. He tends to blame the world for that as well.
Oh, he thinks he's a bad But by the way, I just realized I would like to say, if you could, right now, that you found the book funny.
I found the book hilarious. I laughed out loud a bunch of times.
I wanted to leverage that it was funny because booksellers can do this really naughty thing where they take a book and they give it to one person to review it, which means the great review but just makes to the whole person on the receiving end.
It was hilarious. I remember the last time I read a novel and laughed out loud several times.
Music to my ears.
But I will tell you though that while it's hilarious, I really confident
entertaining against your will.
I was I don't know how I feel about this. Meaning that it's hilarious, but your pages of vulgarity almost without laughs.
I try and talk myself as progress.
I think it's an unfair expression.
My editor did say, well, can we just have Tourette's? And that way it becomes cute and funny. It's like, no, he's just English. And this is what he does.
You know, I've already seen some reviews of this book, and you've been attacked for it because Raymond comes across at least as misogynist and homophobic and misanthropic and yeah, all these horrible things. And I don't know a lot of it because I've written and things you said. I don't think that you hear those things.
Well, sets are like is Angela Lansbury an ex-murderer? It's the thing about characters, and this is weird. You have to do this now. Is you start writing a book, and then about a quarter of the way in, usually, the characters basically write about themselves, and you're just sitting there channeling it. And so, in the case of Raymond, oh my God, I can't believe you just did that. Wait, technically I just did that, didn't I? What's going on here? And then that's of all the characters like that, he's the one that I don't know where he came from or whatever. It just,
you know, I find that comforting because you were here telling me that, oh yeah, Raymond, I know that guy. I'd be a bit concerned.
I have no idea. That's characters in general.
Well, you're a literary writer. And again, I couldn't close this book. I thought there's some point to this, but it's not like there's no redemption.
No socially redeeming value whatsoever. Every book I do is different from the ones preceded it. Everything new should offer some chance to change the reader in some way. And with this book, I kind of want you to feel like, what would it be like to be hit from fire hoses from 7 different directions at full blast, and then they turn off, and you're just standing there kind of tingly and cartoon stars sort of flying around the top of your head. And one of the reasons I wrote the book is just because things have been sort of grim in a lot of ways. And there's sort of this epidemic earnestness. And why not just go against that trend and write something that might actually damage a person's soul if they read it?
What's the opposite of
It's like
a detriment?
no, it's like one of those burgers that has like chicken, that's like 2 meat patties
Big
and some
Mac.
bun. It is that.
Douglas Copeland, it's been a while speaking with you.
Thanks so much.
Douglas Copeland's new novel is called Worst Person Ever. Again, this is All Things Considered from NPR West. I'm Christine Jensen says she has multiple personalities. She's a saxophonist, a composer, leader of a jazz group, and more recently, the conductor of an 18-piece jazz orchestra. That requires yet another personality, a businesswoman at a generally unprofitable venture.
It's not like the pop industry where it's an investment that's going to mostly pay off. It is really hard to get it to the public unless you're touring all the time, and there's always some big bands that work hard.
Christine Jensen's latest album is called Habitat. This piece, Intersection, is the first time she's ever attended a art specific.
At the time, some a lot with sextets and quintets and this is so nice, you put me for big band, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so much work. 18 people, that's a lot of people to think about. Gradually, once I got comfortable doing a few things, I challenged myself to write something that creates a journey. It was basically kind of a concept where I was featuring many different soloists and different chords of the piece, so you hear a bit of small group from large group to solo piano. There's a lot of different textures in this piece.
This is not the typical jazz big band you think of where the person is fronting and playing their own horn. You actually, when I've seen you, most of your times your hands are too busy conducting the horn. Is there something about this music? Is it too difficult to conduct and play at the same time?
There's definitely a challenge there. It depends, I guess. You know, I think of an album, each piece doing a short story, and maybe I'm involved in it as a player, maybe I'm involved in it as a conductor of the music. And that word conductor is a very strong word for me, so I'm in the music as the composer.
Couldn't get the fuck out of there. Should have gone left.
But I also feel that sort of the audacity for me is also balancing beautiful spoken moment from the albums of jazz with the soloist and with the rhythm section, and then there's this ensemble writing. So where I place the soloist for myself is all about finding a fine balance between the two things.
Well, there's one track titled Very Place of Unknown Sense that's sweet and healthy. What is it like? Because I know you talked about the headspace of a composer and the headspace of an improviser being almost distinct. So what's it like smashing those two together?
Well, I guess that's when I get to be in the moment. Sweet Alpha is also kind of one of the first pieces I wrote for Ingrid and me. My sister, she became Ingrid Jensen, and I distinctly remember sitting on the street, which is Adelphi Street in Brooklyn, in Fifth Street. And it was a beautiful spring day, and I just wrote the moment down super fast. Piece, but in the end, I really had to conduct more than play at that point.
So talking about your sister, Ingrid Jensen. For people who are not familiar with jazz, she's a fantastic trumpet player who's been in the scene for a while. So as you're working as the architect of this music, how do you deploy Ingrid in a tune like Tree Lines?
Oh, that's a good question. Tree Lines I found was something where I was working on character development a little bit and how you have to balance between the soloist and the ensemble. It's a tricky thing. I think that's why some of my songs are a bit too long. But I find deploying is a great word. Every take we do, I'm just trying to lay out some things for her so she can have this freedom to do what she likes sometimes in my music.
Let's talk about the track Tumble Down. That's about your travels in Haiti. Can you talk about what inspired that piece?
That I wrote quickly out of the spirit of the moment of the sadness I felt when I heard about that devastating earthquake.
This is the earthquake in Haiti in 2010.
Yeah, thank you. 2010. And I've been there the previous years, a few years back, 2007 and 2008. It was a visit where I felt there was so much hope and so much of a future in terms of infrastructure ahead of them. I think I met the most beautiful people in my life from all my travels by going to Port-au-Prince. And then, a few years later, I'm sitting in a residency at the BAM Center for Fine Arts, and I was trying to write some music, and I couldn't believe this earthquake had hit and kind of wiped out what I thought was some structure that was going to start happening in this place. It's amazing that there's a place this close to North America and how third world it is when you look at it. And to know that it went deeper into this dark place after an earthquake. But I do know that, after meeting these people, they're so resilient and so positive and so beautiful that that's sort of the journey of that piece.
That saxophonist, composer, and band leader Christine Jensen. Her new album is called Habitat. Christine, thank you so much. It was a blast talking with you.
Thank you for having me.
And for Saturday, that's all things considered from NPR West. I'm Lee Roth. Check out our weekly podcast, Look for Weekends and All Things Considered on iTunes or on the NPR app. And you can follow us on Twitter at NPR WETC. Tomorrow, we travel to California's Central Valley, ground zero for the state's severe ongoing drought. It's not just affecting farmers, it also has people worried about the schools and what happens when families have to leave to find jobs.
We could lose up to 5% of our students, which for a 10,000 student school district, which is what we are, we're talking about 500 kids.
The ripple effects of California's drought. That's tomorrow. Until then, thanks for listening. Have a great night.
This program brought to you in part by a grant from the Corporation for Public Broadcasting.
5:58 coming up next on 93.9 FM, a Prairie Home Companion on AM 820. It is Radio Lab. What was it like to be black and gay in America in the 1950s? Well, that was the central theme of the writings of James Baldwin, who would have turned 90 this year. Baldwin's work is being celebrated in a festival next week. James Baldwin This Time will happen from Wednesday the 23rd until next Sunday at New York Live Arts in Chelsea. Choreographer Bill T. Jones is the executive artistic director of New York Live Arts. He says he wishes he could talk to Baldwin about his book, Giovanni's Room, which Jones tried to read 3 times, 4 just finished this year.
Encouraged and assured and sad that the book transcends the specificity of its era. But even then, I wonder what they might have said about the issue of gay liberation.
The festival will present 18 events in theater, visual art, dance, and literature, and will include artists like photographer Carrie Mae Weems and songwriter Carl Hancock Rux. Begins Wednesday, continues until Sunday at New York Live Arts, West 19th Street in Chelsea.
Support for NPR comes from NPR member stations and from Cancer Treatment Centers of America, with a diagnostic exam and treatment plan
God
for
damn it.
advanced stage patients seeking a second opinion at cancercenter.com. The Wallace Foundation, a source of ideas for improving education and enrichment for children, both in and out of school, at wallacefoundation.org. And the Gilchrist Foundation, in support of NPR's commitment to coverage of the arts. WNYC support comes from the Metropolitan Museum of Art, presenting the Passions of Jean-Baptiste Carpeaux. The exhibition spans the 19th century French sculptor's brief yet meteoric career and displays Carpeaux's talent for depicting flesh and blood in stone. Preview at metmuseum.org. Rutgers University, presenting a day of music, dance, house chips, and more on Rutgers Day, Saturday, April 26, from 8 to 4 p.m. on the Rutgers campuses in New Brunswick and Piscataway. Free for all. More at explore.rutgers.edu.
This is WNYC, AM, FM, and HD, New York.
From American Public Media.
Prairie Home Companion. Our show tonight is a rebroadcast of a show we did in New York City, West 43rd Street, back in 2011, in the spring, with our guests, the great Brazilian guitar duo Sergio and Odair Assad, the DJ Leonardo sisters from Brooklyn, all three of them, and from the Smoky Mountains of Virginia, Robin and Linda Williams. The Royal Academy of Radio Acting, Tim Russell, Sue Scott, Mr. Fred Newman with us, Maestro Richard Dvorsky at the piano. We'll bring you a New York celebration.
Fuck, are you shitting me?
And of course,
you fucking asshole.
Tonight's show all brought to you by Holiday Vacations, joining the Pasadena Rose Parade and a Panama Canal cruise in one exclusive itinerary. More at holidayvacations.net. And by the Ford Fusion, it has available voice-activated technology and efficiency designed to get people talking. Ford, go Ford. It's Holy Week. The band is off today because Holy Week is a big full employment week for musicians. So they had other jobs, Holy Week engagements, Palm Sunday, and Monday, Thursday, the blues service, and on Friday, of course, and then Easter. Some people thought that we should not do a show on Holy Week, but they're just plain wrong. The true religion of America, as we all know, is not Christianity any more than it is Judaism. It is sports. And Holy Week was back in March. It was the NCAA tournament. That was Holy Week.
San Diego State, Brigham Young, Florida, University of Connecticut, Arizona, Duke, Butler, Wisconsin, Marquette, North Carolina, Richmond, Kansas, Kentucky, Ohio State, Florida State, Virginia, Commonwealth University.
Sports. Basketball, baseball, football. Sports. That's the American religion. Any youth minister at any church in America can tell you that sports takes precedence. Church is an afterthought.
Boys middle school soccer practice will be held daily except for game days from 3 to 6 p.m. And on Sunday not practice, you do not play, there will be no exceptions.
Spring in New York, the daffodils are in bloom. All is good, they say, even when it rains.
Hello, stranger, but your love hand in mine. Hello, stranger, but your love hand in mine. You're a stranger. Ooh, you're a friend of
Hello, laundry. Got 5 shirts and a suit with a stain. Where someone spilled some fruit, and I know it is sudden. Could get this afternoon. Hello, drugstore. Need some cough drops for this cough and some lotion. Keep my skin nice and soft. Came from my prescription. For 2 weeks of so hard. This for a young woman here, let me sing 3-part harmony, just going up together, all in one house over in Brooklyn. Where were you? Over in Bensonhurst?
In Bensonhurst, that's right.
Bensonhurst, just across the river.
Just across the river.
I've always heard that was a rough neighborhood, but here you are, just very polite, genteel.
We're tough harmony singers.
Yeah, you have social skills and everything, you're well brought up and so on. Make eye contact, and you're very nicely dressed and so forth. So it was all started. How old were you? It was 3-part harmony.
Wow, very young, maybe 6, 9, and 12, 5.
Really, just suddenly happened when you were 6?
Yeah. Well, first it was a 2-part, and then she came along and did a 3-part.
Then she came along.
Yeah, she came along and did. We're trying to build it apart.
I see. And it just was expected
It
of
was
you.
yeah.
And you knew where you belonged in this triad.
That's right.
Where do you belong, Christine?
Wow. I mean, now it's any place. But when I was young, it was always the melody because it was the easiest.
But you would naturally fit into a chord, right?
Yes.
How lucky you were. Well, sing something in three-part harmony. This is a breakup song, right? Yeah.
I know it's pain. Why do you bring rain? No one
Fuck.
you can free from these chains.
Missed him, didn't miss me.
Girl, do you need someone to blame? You need to break up with rain. The boyfriend you dragged in from the rain. Oh, today your sister's gonna make you wanna listen to some common sense. Listen up, baby. Are you gonna let him stay and never pay the rent? Don't you know, things can change. Just break up with Wayne. He's so mundane. Tomorrow we'll catch the train to Bangor, Maine. After you break up with Wayne, with some champagne, tomatoes, cheese, and romaine. You got no one to blame for your going insane. No, baby, you got screws in your brain. Girlfriend, it's time to make a change. Make a change. You've gotta break up with Wayne. Break up with Wayne. Oh, today your sister's gonna make you wanna listen to some common sense. Listen up, baby. Are you gonna let him stay and never pay the rent? Don't you know? Don't you know? Things can change. Just break up with Wayne. He's so mundane. Yeah. Tomorrow we'll catch the train to Bangor, Maine. After you break up with Wayne.
Christine, the big Carolina Systems, from Bensonhurst, in Brooklyn. It's Shakespeare's birthday, April 23rd. We celebrate Shakespeare's birthday, born 1564. And the thing that you need to know about Shakespeare is that he was a juvenile delinquent, that he got into serious trouble in Stratford, and maybe, just maybe, you have to get into trouble before you can go off and do great things in the world. Just think about that, especially you parents.
All that when I knew, actually
He
just
got
left.
Anne Hathaway pregnant, long before they were married. They'd just been married to cover up. And then he was in trouble for poaching a deer. He shot a deer, which was a serious offense back then, and you faced serious punishment, and that was what drove him out of Stratford to go off to London and to join up with the theater and to become a poet. And that's just the truth. The editor of our national paper is here with us. The executive editor, Mr. Bill Keller, has come over from the offices of the New York Times. A rare instance of a terrific writer who becomes an editor. He's a great reporter for the New York Times. Why he gave it up is his to know and us to find out. If you're curious to see what he's written, you can Google Keller WikiLeaks, and you will come up with an amazing, long, beautiful, detailed story that he wrote for the New York Times Sunday magazine a little ways back. Meet up with Shakespeare.
I met up with Shakespeare in high school the way most people do. I was in San Mateo, California, a Catholic boys' school, called the University High School, where they can memorize
organize this particular sonnet?
They did. And why this particular sonnet? You were, well, it's a good person.
I was
a good family.
Well, they made us all memorize this one, and I don't know, it has some shame in it. It was a Catholic boys' high school.
Yes.
We had our share of guilt and shame.
Of course. Nothing compared to what we went through on Frozen Tundra.
Or Shakespeare back in the 16th century.
It's a beautiful, beautiful song. Woman in Disgrace. It's a good killer.
When, in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me like the one more rich in hope, featured like him with friends possessed, desiring this man's art and that man's scope, with what I most enjoy contented least. Yet, in these thoughts, myself almost despising, happily I think on thee, and then my state, like to the lark at break of day arising from sullen earth, sings hymns to his gate.
Yeah.
For thy sweet love, remembered, such wealth brings, that then I scorn to change my state with kings.
Kristen Bush is with us today. Kristen Bush, most recently seen on stage at the Playwrights Horizon in a wonderful play called Kin, and now off to other things. Originally from Kansas.
Sterling, Kansas, population 2,000.
Is that right? Just exactly the right size for a brilliant young actress to come from. Large enough to be able to put on plays.
Exactly.
Small enough so that you got an early sense of being better than other people.
I will agree with you, but I didn't say it.
No, of course not. No, and I shouldn't have either. But out of Kansas, how did you go off to study acting in London? That's a long leap.
Well, there was a library with a lot of Merchant Library films, and I became an Anglophile. And I went to London to study for 3 years.
Oh no, don't pick up that accent, Ted.
Don't worry, I won't.
Don't.
I won't.
All right. So did you get to act in Shakespeare over there?
I did. It's cool. And I've been blessed to get to act in Shakespeare here a bit.
And what?
I played Cordelia in Hamlet. Kevin Kline was in that one.
Oh, him.
You know him, I
Oh,
think.
him. Yes.
He might have been in a very cool companion.
He might have been, but yes, heavily disguised. So you've been playing Shakespeare again, I hope?
I'd better.
Yeah, you better. What's in your future? What do you want to do?
Well,
You'll be listening. Listening.
that's right. I think a Rosalind is in my life.
Keep that in mind. What sonnet are you going to do, Kristen?
I'm going to do 113. Since I left you, mine eye is in my mind, and that which governs me to go about doth part his function and is partly blind. Seems seeing, but effectually is out. For it no form delivers to the heart a bird, a flower, or shape which it doth latch. Of his quick objects hath the mind no part, nor his own vision holds what it doth catch. For if it see the rudest or gentlest sight, the most sweet favor or deformest creature, the mountain or the sea, the day or night, the crow or dove, it shapes them to your feature. Incapable of more, complete with you, my most true mind, thus maketh I'm untrue.
sweet man. This man is beloved, actually, who was the mayor of New York, though of course he got into trouble, and all the time, you know, made people angry left and right. But he went around the city and he said, how am I doing? And people of his red Koch.
Thank you.
You were the mayor who persuaded New Yorkers that the mayor of New York ought to be like a real New Yorker.
Well, I think that's the role of the mayor, to be the right arm of the people. The people believe they own the mayor, and they do.
All right. Well, we're glad, we're happy we own you. Do we still own you, or?
Absolutely.
We weren't sure. Well, maybe we should start a draft movement then.
No.
No?
You're done.
You're over with it. Enjoying life? Life is good?
I'm having a wonderful time. I won't ever look back. And for new challenges, I'm enjoying my life.
And you have chosen a romantic partner.
Well, you help me.
Well, you were romantic. You were a Galahad. You were jousting with tall villains. Riding around the city on your white horse with your long spear. But we're not looking back.
No.
Okay. Just okay.
Let me not, to the marriage of true minds, admit impediments. Love is not love, which alters when it alteration finds, or bends with a remover to remove. Oh no! It's an ever-fixed mark that looks on tempests and is never shaken. It is the star to every wandering bark, whose worth's unknown, although his height be taken. Love's not time's fool, though rosy lips and cheeks within his bending sickle's compass come. Love alters not with his brief hours and weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom. If this be error, and upon me proved, I never writ, nor no man ever loved.
Thank you, Mayor Koch. Thank you, Bill Carter. Thank you, President Bush, more Shakespeare songs to come. We had a special guest we invited to read a sonnet, but he decided he would rather sing a song instead, so you're on.
April in New York, subways are running. Check out those new cabs, their biggest fans. April in New York, there's lots of bike lanes, and Grand Central Terminal is grand. Till April in New York, and then it's May. I'm jam rested and ready. Bloomberg is blooming today.
Oops. Too bad. I think I could make the $10 minimum.
I told you it was a variety show. That's where you are, so you said. Huh? It was beautiful in its own way. It was what it was, and no more and no less. We're so pleased to welcome the Sideways back to our show from Brazil.
Thank you. Thank you.
Actually from Brussels and from Paris, where you are living now, if you consider that a residence. I mean, you're traveling all over the world, all over Europe and South America.
Yes, maritime.
Yes, cutting new waters, plowing new furrow for people to use. wish you could have a third, or
Well, we do. We have a
is it
big
going to be
family. We have a sister who plays guitar, and we have I have a wonderful pianist. She's a fairly good guitar too.
So there's a possibility for expansion of the Assad family firm, the guitar firm. All right, good. Always want to look to the future, not look to the past, as Mayor Coach just said. Play us a tune in the future, which is right now.
Really? That was amazing.
Well, that's it. It's a familiar tune for the beat because it's most known pieces all the great from Revival. But that's a nice instrumental tune. It's very rare for this music.
You're sure there are no words to it?
I think someone, of course, after his death could have said that. I don't know the words. Sorry. I don't think the singer always seems so deadly.
Don't ask me. I feel there ought to be words to everything.
I think you should give it a try.
Play us another instrumental without words.
Okay.
My goal, my minimum goal. Not necessarily trying to kill it off at 250.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of a Prairie Home Companion from the town hall in New York City. Yeah, there's a guy more coming up in this next half hour, and our dear John Roberts sisters will be back to see another sweet ballad of rejection and recrimination, and others and more songs of Shakespeare. This first half hour brought to you by Powder Milk Biscuits and a big blue box with a picture of the biscuit on the cover. Heavens, they're tasty and expeditious.
WNYC receives support from Adelphi University, hosting an open house for grad students Wednesday, May 7th at 5 p.m. Garden City, with Adelphi representatives presenting graduate-level programs, financial aid options, and more. More at adelphi.edu.
Italian food used to be pizza, spaghetti, and lasagna. Now we understand the difference between bouillon and basilica. It's another world out there.
That's Mario Batali, leading the audience when he and fellow chefs Andrew Carmelini and Michael White swap stories and share tips on creating delicious Italian food with an American accent. Hosted by Leonard Lopez. Wednesday, May 7th at the New York Society for Ethical Culture. Tickets at wnyc.org/events.
Prairie Home Companion on WNCFM and HD New York.
Shit, I thought I was going to get out of it.
4 to 87. The Yankees at Tampa Bay, Atlanta at the Mets at 7:10. Clear tonight, low 41. Mostly sunny, 66 now. At
Reaches out its hand for you. A brand new person has started to build
an enormous parade on Saturday at the Arthur Kill Shopping Mall. It was kind of hard to tell the marchers from the shoppers. And then I saw a man with
Oh shit.
interesting blonde hair and a majestic scowl marching along, followed by a long black limo.
I'll run for president, or maybe not, I haven't decided. I know I'm sure to win, I am the best, and I can't hide it. I'm smart, I'm very rich, I'm Donald Trump, and I have won. Oh yes, I am a man, and also a town.
I thought that was you, yeah.
Okay, look, who are you? What do you want here?
My name's Norm. Are you really going to run for president?
That's none of your business. I'll run if I run, and if I don't, I won't move. I'm out of here. If I run, I win, no doubt about it. I am very popular among the blacks, Orientals, Spanish, all of them. They admire my lifestyle. Come to watch the president, we'll tell him he's out of the country, stop jerking us around or else.
Okay, so you're going to run?
I don't know. I got a hit TV show, I've got casinos, I've got new apartment buildings going up all around the world. If I'm elected president, which I would be, no doubt about it, show gets canceled. Boom, I got nothing for myself.
His hair was a monument to heterogeneity. His mind was a monument to symbols. Whatever else you may say about Mr. Trump, he raised self-regard to the high art. The pharaohs were shrinking violets by comparison. It just had my cell phone ring. Yeah, hello.
Mr. Hart?
And from Facebook.
Oh, what a day. Guess who I just met? Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, Donald Trump doesn't look good, but there's a mirror. I mean, who where are you, Mr. Zuckerberg?
I'm standing right across the street, waiting right now.
You don't seem to have any security around you there, Mr. Zuckerberg.
That's because I'm not recognizable. Look at me. I'm wearing a bright red shirt that says I own Facebook now. Nobody cares. I'm invisible. Just one more word. I've got a problem. Someone thinks he owns half of Facebook. And he's marching in the middle of broad parade.
The Winklevoss twins again?
No, not the Winklevoss.
The wood pellet salesman from our state, the guy who's keeping
No. Can we talk?
Mr. Zuckerberg told me about a trip he'd taken to Wisconsin 10 years ago to buy some cheese.
275, 128.
He bar and he met a guy in camo in a bright orange vest. Had a few beers.